Hey everybody, it's Rook. Welcome back. We just saw an errata come through for Speed Duel format in November 2021, and a lot of people are wondering, well, what's meta now? You know, we got Moth hit, we got Interconflict hit, and now I have no idea what to play. Well, I'm here to do an updated meta video, show you guys exactly what we're playing. Here's the top 2 decks of the end of 2021 going into 2022 before the GX box that's coming this February. The first deck that I have in front of me is Spellproof Armor. Spellproof Armor has absolutely rocketed to the top. Mainly because Clausolis is just such a beater to get out. Spellproof Armor, you can normal summon machine monsters with 1 less tribute, and they can't be targeted by spell effects. But Clausolis is just your beat stick, and it beats over pretty much anything. It lost the risk of getting interconflicted or getting Parasite attached to it. I mean, you're still going to see Moth out there, but you won't see Parasite as often, and IC's dead. So Clausolis is amazing. Into Jinzo, 3 Jinzo as well. Jinzo is going to be what locks down the traps. Spellproof Armor already locks down the spells against your monsters, so Jinzo is the trifecta there, and you're able to kill an opponent in maybe 1 or 2 turns. Keep in mind, guys, this is more of a guide. A few different ways to build this deck. The Clausolis and the Jinzo is pretty solid, but you do have Core Destroyer in here because you're going to be playing a lot of light monsters. You know, we see people kind of play around with fairies now. We're seeing XYZ Union all over the place if it's not Spellproof Armor. So Ally Justice Core Destroyer is pretty great. At the start of your damage step, if it battles a light monster, destroy that monster. All of the XYZ Union pieces are light, so that's going to destroy it without taking damage. And we have one more on the side, just in case we have confirmed that we're playing a light heavy monster deck. Core Destroyer is great. Core Destroyer also you can set. You cannot set Clausolis with Spellproof Armor. You can only normal summon it because it is a 6-star monster. But if you need a little defense, Core Destroyer is there to set. Also a great Allure of Darkness target. A lot of people have used Allure of Darkness in this deck. We have 7 dark targets, potentially 8 if we side in the second Core Destroyer. So that's not bad. 3 Summoner's Art to get your Clausolis. That's super good. You have so many chances to essentially get Clausolis, and your monsters, you're going to want to protect those with your life when you're using Spellproof Armor. This deck, I would actually say, is probably the easiest for like a newbie to kind of get into, because it's really just like, here's my skill. I don't have to activate anything. I just throw down big monsters. My opponent has to deal with it. So the Clausolis Jinzo, Core Destroyer is great. Summoner's Art gets your Clausolis. Allure of Darkness helps you with that card draw. And you have 7 dark targets to banish, so you're not going to be ditching your hand to the grave. 3 Psychic Shockwave in this deck example. When your opponent activates a trap card, discard a spell trap, special summon a level 6 dark machine monster. This gets your Jinzo out if you don't have a Jinzo and your opponent is activating a trap. This is good in this deck because you can absolutely discard a Summoner's Art you might not need if you already have Clausolis in hand, or maybe have some of these other traps, or even an Allure of Darkness where it's just not the right time, so you can use it as bait for the Shockwave to get your Jinzo out, and Jinzo is a really big win condition with this deck. So Psychic Shockwave, this particular deck example has 3. A couple Widespread Ruin, does not target, destroys the highest attack monster. The biggest threat to Spellproof Armor is a monster with higher attack than 24, which is Jinzo's, so Widespread Ruin will take care of that. If your opponent does have a Moth out, or if they're able to get something out with Valhalla, like Moisture Creature or whatever the other fairy is that's really scary, Widespread Ruin helps there. And Skill Successor helps with those monsters that might still be in the 2000s. You can activate it to give a monster 400 attack till end of turn. That gives Clausolis 27. And you can also banish it from grave to give a monster 800, which puts Clausolis all the way up to 31, which will beat a Blue Eyes for those of you that are still playing Dragoncaller. For the side deck, since we are seeing XYZ Unions a lot, in addition to Spellproof Armor, we do have 3 Defusion in here. We did have Lost Wind. Oh, hey, Blaze, what's up? We did have Lost Wind in here before, but we're finding that we're not using it as much as we would use something like Defusion, just because we're not seeing Moth less. We're not seeing special summon monsters as much, maybe with Fairies. Fairies is kind of an outlier. And Spellproof Armor, you don't special summon at all. You're seeing a lot of that also. It's really going to be XYZ Unions and Spellproof Armor. So if the only other deck you're playing against that special summons is XYZ Unions, most of the time you want 3 Defusion instead of Lost Wind. We have another Core Destroyer in case we're battling light monsters consistently. Solitary Sword of Poison, another great option to get over a monster that has higher attack than yours that an opponent might consistently get out. Double attack defense during damage calculation, so that's going to help you there. And I personally have a Mind Crush in here. Mind Crush is great because you're playing against people that maybe you're playing against Spellproof Armor where they have Summoner's Art, you know they have Clausolis in hand. Mind Crush takes that away. Maybe you can hit Parasite, you know they have the play set up. And XYZ Unions, obviously being able to Mind Crush after a Union Hanger if they get Y in hand before the normal summon, something like that. So Mind Crush, you're going to start to see that you kind of know what people have in their hands pretty consistently, so Mind Crush is a good one there. And then the extra deck doesn't matter. It's just on Dueling Book, you show that there's an extra deck, so it's always nice to kind of confuse your opponent, make them think you have an extra deck. But there is no extra deck in Spellproof Armor. It's a pretty straightforward deck. It's super powerful right now. I'm currently using it in the current Winnabox. We see it top in the showdown consistently, weekly, since the errata changes on November 1st. In fact, I think a couple weeks ago it was literally head-to-head, first and second place. Last week it got third place. It's all over the place, and it's really easy to get into. So guys, if you're looking to pick up Speed Duel because you like GX and you'll kind of want to get your feet wet with it while you're getting ready, waiting for the GX box to come out, the format is actually really exciting. I'm playing this for fun again, now that I'm not afraid of Moth, not afraid of Inner Conflict. So Spellproof Armor is going to be your hit. Definitely a great one to get into. You're going to be pretty successful with that. So that is my number one top meta deck right now with the errata changes. After a few weeks of play testing, we've seen some decks emerge. Spellproof Armor is pretty consistent and pretty strong. A lot of opponents are having a hard time handling and just battling this Clausolus being 2300. A lot of opponents are having a tough time with that. So Spellproof Armor, number one meta deck currently. Number two, let's go down to XYZ Unions. I mentioned this deck in the early meta when the Battle City box came out because everyone flocked to XYZ Unions and Magnets because they were the two archetypes that were beloved. People like to see those, like to play them, and sure enough, we see XYZ Unions, who did not get hit in the errata, stay strong here. XYZ Unions were already good before the errata changes, but now the Inner Conflict's out of the way, and Cocoon has gotten hit, so Moth's more or less out of the way. XYZ has never been stronger. This is a sample deck, 2 X-Head Cannon, 2 Wide Dragon Head, 3 Z-Metal Tank. We have 2 Foolish Burial. There's no ban list, so Foolish Burial you can run 2. Really good to get something like the X-Head Engrave. And the 3 Union Hanger. A great opener is to open Union Hanger to get Y to hand. Normal summon Y. Union Hanger's effect allows you to get Z to equip to Y. You already have a YZ on the field. You're able to immediately fuse it off for maybe a YZ Tank Dragon, or you can keep it out as extra threat. And you're always going to have these kind of in the banish or in the grave, and your other cards like Union Combination Skill or Union Scramble to Trap are going to engage with those as the duel goes on, so you're always going to have resources. Moving on from Union Hanger, which is a great synergy card for Unions, we have Offerings to the Doomed. Offerings to the Doomed works surprisingly well here because you are able to it's just straight removal. You're playing against something like Moth or anything that's a bigger monster than some of these guys. I don't want to see this, remove it. Why it works so well with XYZ Unions is because the Union deck typically has enough resources to survive the next turn using Union Combination from the grave or using Scramble from the banished to get things back onto the field without having to draw anything. So skipping your next draw phase for a Union Combination player, XYZ Union player is really not as much of a threat as it is to maybe some other decks. So Offerings to the Doom, a lot of people are main decking that now. It's really good in Unions. 3 Book of Moon. Book of Moon works because obviously it's a great defensive option against decks you're playing, except Spellproof. Book of Moon, in addition to being a really great defensive option against monsters your opponent may have, it's also useful to use on yourself if you're trying to combat an Offerings that maybe the opponent has. They've used Offerings to the Doom. You Book of Moon, chain, flip face down. Offerings doesn't happen, but they still skip their draw phase. And it's another great way to kind of protect monsters from anything that would target a face-up. So Book of Moon is just an all-around universal card. I don't think I need to explain it much more. We see it pretty frequently. And then for the 1 trap, we have 3 Union Scramble, which is probably, is it the most broken card in this deck? It just gets stuff right back out from Banish. This is why Offerings work so well. You don't need to draw. You banish your monsters to get the Union pieces out and to get these fusions out, and then you just get them right back with Scramble. You can Scramble in the battle phase for extra rushdown threat. You can Scramble at the end phase, kind of set up for the next turn, and it's fantastic. Union Scramble has a secondary effect where you can banish it from the grave to get a Union piece or something from the banish back to your hand. So if you have XYZ out and you just banished 3 monsters to get it, you can then Scramble to get a piece back in your hand. Now you have fodder to use XYZ Dragon Cannon's effect. And then moving on, we have the extra deck. We have 2 YZ Tank Dragon, 2 XYZ Dragon Cannon, an XZ Tank Cannon, and 1 XY Dragon Cannon. The YZ is the discard to hit a face-down monster, a set monster. XYZ is the discard to hit anything. XZ is discard to hit a face-down spell trap. And XY is the discard to hit a face-up spell trap. You're probably not going to use that one too often. So these all work pretty well with each other. You're going to see YZ pretty consistently because of the hanger play. So you get Y out, you get Z out. If you have a Scramble in your hand, maybe you want to fuse into YZ Tank Dragon and then set that Scramble, and then the next turn, you can Scramble them back. So there are a few different ways that works, but you can tell that there's really not too much room. I guess you could put Zoma in here, but you could also put Zoma in Spellproof, but there's really not too much room. It just works so well together like this in this package. So let's go into the side. We have another Offerings in case you want to triple Offerings, in case you got some real scary monsters your opponent has. Cosmic Cyclone, a little bit of magic removal. This is kind of just a guide. 3 Defusion. Again, this side deck did have Lost Wind in it. We removed it because you're not Lost Winding anything Spellproof Armor is putting out. Defusion, one of the big threats you're going to see is this deck, so Defusion works really well. Defusion absolutely kills this deck. It slows the momentum entirely, so it's really good to have that. And for the mirror, and I thank Ursus for this, for showing me for the first time, Obelisk the Tormentor works in the mirror match. Just because you find that you consistently get all 3 pieces out, and if you're playing against another XYZ Unions and all you're doing is just fusing off and just doing the same thing again and again, Obelisk the Tormentor kind of interrupts that and makes it more difficult to get over. It can't be targeted with card effects, so you can't use XYZ on it. So Obelisk is good for the mirror. These are my personally recommended top 2 decks to play right now that are absolutely meta while we prepare for the GX box. Thanks to the new erratas, the format has shifted in a positive way. These are really fun to play. I find I'm playing more. I'm enjoying the showdown as I commentate those matches, and hopefully you guys enjoy seeing those come out on the channel. But if you want to jump in, definitely try one of these 2 decks. Unions might draw a lot of people with nostalgia that have been playing these for years. You guys know exactly what to do here. For those of you that are relatively kind of more new, maybe you started playing Synchros, maybe started playing Pendulums, Links, and you want to get into Speed Duel, I definitely recommend the Spellproof Armor deck. It's pretty simplistic and surprisingly strong, as simple as it is. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hit a thumbs up if you did. Subscribe for more. We got more Speed Duel stuff coming your way. Showdown VODs coming weekly, and some more great content as we prepare for the future. But I am really excited to play this format. It was a great change that happened this November. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you later. See ya.